Okay, I think it's time for my brutal, honest assessment of where England are at in Euro 2024. Now, before we get into my brutal, honest assessment of where England are at in Euro 2024, I want to make this clear. Um, for those who are new to the channel, and I've just found the channel because of the Euros, when I do match reviews of any major sporting event, which involves team sports, doesn't matter what the sport is, rugby league, rugby union, football, cricket, whatever the sport is, I try and stay as balanced and as neutral as possible. And that is difficult when teams who are playing I am a fan of or I want to see do well. I just want to see them do well because there's other players on the team I want to see do well, or I have a soft spot for that team as like, yeah, okay, I want to see them be competitive, do well, etc. I try, it's difficult, but I try and stay as balanced as possible. And yes, I do want to see the home nations do well when it comes to tournament football, rugby league, rugby union. Yeah, I want to see the home nations and Ireland do well. It's. I also like to see the underdogs do well and give it a bit of fight as well. But again, while I have my teams that I follow and the teams I have soft spots for, I do try and stay balanced and neutral. Last night's match review, that mask slipped and I had basically sort of blew up. I couldn't be unbiased and neutral in that one. I started to. It took 19 takes. The first 18, I was dropping F-bombs, C-bombs, S-bombs. I just ranted. The 19th take, I did not swear. I got a video up and uploaded to the channel and up for you guys to watch. But I was fuming. But in order to assess what's going on at Euro 2024, we have to go back to the qualifying for Russia 2018. When the first game I watched when Southgate was manager of England was Lithuania versus England in the qualifying group for the World Cup in Russia in 2018. And we were playing away in Lithuania. We won 1-0 and it was a poor, shocking performance. Very similar to Serbia. The Serbia performance, very similar to what we saw last night against Denmark. But we got the win and it was a qualifier and it was a team in transition at the time with a new head coach in Southgate following the Roy Hodgson era and the Big Sam era, which was disastrous, by the way, because that lasted a game and he sacked himself. And where England were to where they are sort of now in regards to the last few tournaments, we're in a much better place now than where we were. However, the same issues keep cropping up, which is take a 1-0 lead and then defend deep, basically, and then any kind of attacking intent is taken out of the team. That has to come from coaching. I'm sorry. The amount of attacking talent the team has, admittedly some of these young players are a bit raw and a bit young and a bit inexperienced, but they've got pace, they've got willingness to run, and they've got attacking intent. Surprises me. We've been here before. It's 2018, I think the first major tournament with Southgate, willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. This was a team that was learning to find its feet with Southgate as manager. Only a handful of experienced players that had been under the previous regimes. I think he chose the wrong player as captain in Harry Kane. I think it should have been Henderson at the time and then Pickford as time went on. Still Harry Kane now. For me, not the right player to be captain. But that was Southgate's choice in the build-up to 2018. He decides to give the captaincy to Harry Kane over Jordan Henderson. That was my personal opinion at the time. I stick by that opinion. I think that was a mistake, the first mistake Southgate made. The way we played in 2018 was, you could see it was still a team in transition, but it got on some momentum in the World Cup. Bit workmanlike, but got on some momentum, made a semi-final. The semi-final, that issue of take the lead, sit back and defend, did crop up. It was disappointing, but we learnt a lot, I felt. Fast forward, Euro 2020, we qualify, we make it to the final, and there were some better performances in Euro 2020 over the World Cup in 2018. You can see there was some development with this team. There was some player turnover and some younger players had come in, like Saka, for example. Players like Vardy had moved on. And you could see there was some development, some young blood coming in. Some of the other players had now gained some tournament experience. They'd won that penalty shootout against Colombia, so they were actually starting to overcome some hurdles that had befuddled previous England teams. So you think there's positivity there. And the same thing happens in the final against Italy. And this is where the tactical side of things, where the same issues that came up against Colombia and Croatia in the 2018 World Cup resurfaced in the 2020 Euros with poor tactical decisions by Southgate and poor timing of substitutions. And then the penalty shootout happens and the aftermath on social media, which was very, very disappointing for those young players. I felt so it wasn't their fault. That was on Southgate. Southgate needed to own that better than he did. I think, he really threw those lads under the bus by bringing them on minutes before a penalty shootout in a final at Wembley. Sorry, no sympathy for Southgate there. Starting to lose my sympathy. The group stages of the World Cup in Qatar were as similarly insipid as they are now. Wasn't a great group stage performance. We got through the group stages and started to play better, but very, very uninspiring the first two games. Much like what we've seen these first two games in the first week of the tournament. Very uninspiring, not filling me as a fan with confidence, considering the amount of attacking play we have seen at this Euros. Not a singless goalless game. The game that surprised me the most was Italy-Spain being only 1-0. There were chances all over the place. All over the place. That was one of the best games of the tournament. A low-scoring game, actually. But the attacking intent, the youth of the teams, the space, the end-to-end nature, the underdogs really not being underdogs, yet England and to a certain extent Scotland have put out some pretty insipid play. And I'll discuss Scotland in a separate video because they actually showed some fight back against Switzerland that England did not show last night. At least with Steve Clarke's men, there's a bit of pride there and there's a bit of fight there. England, we cannot blame the pitch for last night's performance because Denmark dealt with it better. Denmark played better on that shocking surface, so we can't blame the pitch. A lot of the issues have to lie with the manager. The post-match press conference sums up the situation where he's really lost the fan base now. The fan base has just gone, this is not good enough. The same issues keep appearing. Nations League's been disappointing, though I'm not a fan of the Nations League concept. I never have been, and I've made my views on that very, very clear at length on this channel over many years. But that's a separate video for a separate time. But the same issues keep appearing at major tournaments, at key moments in games. You take a lead and sit back. That has to be a management decision. But then playing players out of position, which dilutes their ability to positively impact the play, is another head scratcher. And then his response is, well, we haven't found a replacement for Calvin Phillips. At which point, it is kind of obvious there are plenty on the frigging bench. You've got Palmer, who can play deep or high up. You've got Rice. He does a similar role. He was playing last night. Mainoo's had a brilliant season in an otherwise average Man United side and actually was crucial in that FA Cup final and actually helping them win against Man City. Gallagher can play in that role. So, we haven't found a replacement for Calvin Phillips. Calvin Phillips has not really been in the conversation for the national side for over 2 years. Since he's moved to Man City, he's barely bloody played. That is a cop-out from Southgate. Clearly, that statement alone pissed off the England fan base and probably pissed off football fans everywhere going, are you what have to... The fact that Cole Palmer has not played a single minute yet is troubling. Best English player in the Premier League for goal involvements last season. Again, in an average Chelsea side, but when he started hitting form in the second half of the season, he was one of the best players and had the most impact on an average team by improving them. He was entertaining to watch and he has no fear. He has no fear. He will also know a lot of the Man City players from his time at Man City in that academy. So he's already got a working relationship with other players in the squad from his previous club, plus he's got a relationship with Gallagher because he's his teammate not playing. I do not understand that at all. You could see last night at the full-time whistle, there was no love there. Southgate goes over to Palmer. Palmer just barely acknowledges Southgate's existence. That tells me that Southgate has divided and lost the dress. Carl Walker's post-match interview was a car crash as well, by the way. John Stones wasn't much better. I have some concerns about the unity of this team, but the tactic... Trent Alexander-Arnold is not a holding midfielder, a deep line. He is a wide player. And in last night's match review, I did come up with a simple but imperfect solution to balance, at least attempt to balance out the England attacking lineup. You move Foden into the middle, you move Saka, who is naturally left-footed, who can play on the left, to the left, so you've got a natural left-footer on the left, which is something that England have not had for many years, so he can whip balls in, and you put Trent Alexander-Arnold on the right, or Bellingham on the right, and just have Trent and rotating with Kyle Walker, potentially. I didn't actually keep Bellingham on the starting lineup after last night, but you could put Bellingham on the right. You could put Jared Bowen in there. You got get Cole Palmer on, get Gallagher on earlier, get Mainu on, give Rice a bit of support, which actually works because those players play in those roles in midfield. Trent Alexander-Arnold is not tactically the right guy to have as a right defensive midfielder or a right lying deep midfielder. Firstly, it means he cannot use his talent in open play. He's not good enough defensively in the middle. It doesn't suit his game, and you've just denuded his passing game completely and his pace. You've just taken all his attributes away from him and said, you're going here. And then when Southgate says that's an experiment and we haven't got a Calvin Phillips replacement, when there's 3 of them on the bench and 1 starting, shows you that he's really out of his depth. Completely. And then, the post, it just the when he goes over to Cole Palmer, when they're doing the post match handshakes and all that, and the squads are coming, the disinterest from Cole Palmer completely towards the manager tells you that But then here's another thing, as someone who works in a team at my normal day job, you are allowed to give feedback to management to say, well, this hasn't worked, can we try this? This is what we used to do, it did work well under Reynolds. You expect feedback from the people you're managing, positive and negative. And from what I can gather, any negative feedback, you're out the squad. Now, people will talk about Ben White, whether he was good enough for the England squad anyway, but he gave some feedback and he said, well, what's the point of me being here? You're not going to play me. And when you are going to play me, it's not in a position that suits my strengths. Sorry. And he basically told them what to do with themselves. He gave feedback. He was dropped. He hasn't been back in the national side since. 2018 was an interesting one. Ben Foster and Jamie Vardy are 2 examples I'm going to use. Players who were towards the end of their careers, mind, but Vardy went on to have further success with Leicester City and was still an influential player in a Leicester City squad as a senior player. And Ben Foster still had a few good seasons as a starting goalkeeper. Both basically said, we're not playing for England while Southgate's in charge. They both retired after the semi-final against Croatia and the third, fourth place player against Belgium. They were like, we're done. Bye, thank you. We're done. And again, that would have been, they gave some feedback, probably were critical of how the setup was going, no, we're done. We're done. You're not using us to our strengths. Bye, we're out of it. That was in 2018. So for me, that says to me that the coaching setup is either not willing to listen to feedback from players, or it's only feedback they want to hear. And if anyone who doesn't go with the script, you're gone. But surely you want to be challenged by your players, which makes your players more accountable because they're standing up going, I'm not happy with this, which shows leadership from a playing group. And also it shows ability to be flexible as a manager to go, hang on a second, maybe there is a plan B here. Maybe we can do a positive experiment and listen to some feedback, because from what I've seen in these 2 games, there is no plan B. It's get a goal, sit back and defend. It's like he's too scared to allow the players to play, which started to show some fruit at Euro 2020 and started to show some real growth at the World Cup in a couple of moments, in a couple of games in 2022. And even in 2018, we were scoring goals. And there was you could definitely see there was some good passing moves and some good intent. And suddenly, no, we're going to be conservative, which goes against the strengths of the players that he has bloody selected. What is the point of selecting them? You might as well select a whole squad of centre-backs then. Harry Kane is not, for my opinion, the right guy to be captain. Pickford seems to be the only guy with any passion in this side at the moment who really wants to win. He should be captain. Pickford should be captain. And I'm not a fan of Pickford personally. I don't think he's the best goalkeeper that England have available to them. I think Ramsdale's potentially better, but that's a personal opinion. And people can disagree with that. But Pickford shows more fight and more passion than the rest of this England side put together. But I think a lot of the fault lies with the management, because the same issues keep reoccurring. The playing group has changed massively since I first watched Southgate take charge of an England game in 2017. The playing group has changed absolutely, almost unrecognisable. Only a handful of players are left over from those initial early games in 2017, 2018 and 2019. The playing group is completely different, yet the same problems persist, and that seriously has to lie with the management, with Southgate and Holland. There can be no other explanation for this. So, personally, I think Southgate's cooked his goose. I think he's just really shown how out of his depth he is. That press match conference last night, shock. I mean, God, that was a car crash of an interview. That's an interview of a manager. He's basically his numbers up, and I do think Slovenia can beat us and beat us well at the end of the group stage next week. I have no doubt that Slovenia right now are playing better than we are. And they've got 2 draws, but they were showing intent in both the games they played. Even when it was 1-1 or whatever. Yeah, they conceded right at the last minute against Serbia. But even when they were 1-0 up, they were still showing intent to attack. In their first game against Denmark, they showed intent to attack. Even when it was 1-1, they were still willing to try and get a winner. They were still showing intent. We have shown no intent when taking the lead in 2 games. And that is a similar theme that goes back to every single tournament where we've lost a game or had a poor performance, is that it cannot be all on the players because the playing group has changed. Massive change in the squad makeup. I don't know. But I think Slovenia are going to beat us. But a lot of the issues do stem back from, well, we'll give Southgate the benefit of the doubt back in 2017 and 2018. No. A mistake was made by the FA when they extended him after the World Cup. They needed to get some fresh ideas in there and a more attacking coach in there. Because Southgate, I think, initially was done as, let's hold the fort, let's build a culture. He's done the culture. But right now, the body language of the players says they're not happy. They're not confident. Yet for their clubs, they're very confident. They're very happy. They're very positive. But for country, it gets sucked out of them. That has to be due to management. Has to be due to management. Because in the early days of Southgate, there was confidence there. And there was a feeling that we're making progress. Now it's gone. It's eroded. But there we go. That's my view on things. That's my little rant. Now, place your thoughts on where you think England are at. Should Southgate just resign right now and someone else take over for the last game? Because I cannot see us beat Slovenia with how we're playing. Slovenia will see a wounded side that is unconfident, that doesn't know what their best lineup is, who are vulnerable, who are very conservative, and very, very sloppy in their play. No energy in their play. And they will target that. And they've got some players who can shift. The goal against Serbia they scored was a great counter-attack goal. Everything done at pace. Within about 5-10 seconds, one end of the field to the other, goal. We are not showing that. They are. So, that's my view on things. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on where England are at in the comment section below. And we'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.